Hey everyone. You know, in about a week, Christmas is coming. Now, I know some of you might be excited about this, but me, I feel so-so about Christmas. But one thing I do hate more on Christmas, and one thing I do hate more on Christmas is, of course, Christmas horror movies. Christmas horror movies don't deserve to be on Christmas. I mean, if you want to make a horror movie, do it on Halloween. But not on Christmas. Christmas is supposed to be about peace on earth, goodwill towards men, and no killers. Or anything evil. But Hollywood, they just pee me off. So, without further ado, I'm going to do a top 12 Christmas horror movies I hate. And I got a list about it. So, let's get to it, shall we? So, number 12 of the Christmas horror movies I hate is none other than Santa Sleigh. Now, the reason why I put this movie on the bottom of the list, because honestly, I don't hate that movie. This movie is a horror comedy, starring Big Bill Goldberg himself playing Santa. You know, after this, I think I'm going to review Santa Sleigh. Note to self, review Santa Sleigh. Well, continue right along. Moving on, I mean. Now, coming in number 11 is none other than Saint Nicholas. Now, unlike other horror movies, this movie was made and, what do you know? It's raining instead of snowing. How about that on Christmas? Anyway, Saint Nicholas is a German horror movie. This one is about a religious guy who goes by the name of Nicholas, and he kept killing innocent people and kidnapping their children. But the town folks had a vigilante-style justice, so they had him killed. But his spirit didn't rest in peace. He came back to seek vengeance and keep kidnapping everybody's kids. Son of a gun. Now coming on number 10 is none other than Elves. Yeah, think about a horror movie involving an elf. On this one, it turns out that instead of having a Santa Claus doing all the killings, you have an elf doing all the killings. And it turns out that he was an experiment from a Nazi criminal trying to make a super soldier, and in order for him to continue on, he keeps kidnapping women and take advantage of them to have stronger offsprings. Dang. That's one elf I would hate. Now, coming on number 9, and this one is going to be French, so it'll be none other than Inside, aka Eliteraire. A French movie. Now, nothing supernatural involved on this one, but this one is a Christmas horror movie about a pregnant woman. She spends her own apartment all alone. She has no relatives. She has nobody to spend Christmas with. So she's all alone with her pregnant child. But little does she know that the owner, the tenant of the building she's in, she's crazy. She keeps killing anybody who gets in her way, and she's planning to kill that woman so she can steal the baby out of her stomach. Ain't that a thriller? And on Christmas, of all things. Well, coming on number 8, and this one will be a doozy, will be none other than A Cadaver Christmas. Who'd have thought that zombies decided to get involved in Christmas? In this zombie holiday movie, besides that one Christmas musical zombie movie I saw the trailer of, looks pretty interesting. Anyway, A Cadaver Christmas is a holiday zombie movie about a bunch of guys who lives in this building, which is actually a mortuary. And it turns out something happened on Christmas. All the zombies starts coming to life and start eating people. So it's up to these three guys to defend themselves against a horde of zombies on Christmas. Hey, who wants to survive in a zombie horde during Christmas, right? I hate zombies, but this is the worst. I feel like I've been middle-fingered on Christmas. Now coming on number 7 will be none other than Where Exports A Christmas Tale. Now, unlike St. Nicholas, this one here is filmed in Amsterdam. And this one tells a story about a group of hunters who all of a sudden found Santa Claus. But it's not the Santa Claus that we expect. Turns out that Santa Claus was an evil, demonic being. And now they kidnap him and put him in a cage. And while they're trying to keep him there, turns out there was a whole army of old men who are actually bearded elves. And one thing is really strange, all those elves are completely buck naked. So you pretty much will be seeing a lot of naked guys in that movie. But this one is really, really strange to my account. You may find it interesting, but to me, pass. You know how I am with Christmas horror movies. Anyway, coming on number 6, and this one's a good one. Well, good to you, not for me. Number 6 is none other than Jack Frost. And no, not to be confused with Michael Keaton Jack Frost, no. But the horror movie version, Jack Frost. Now, what's this one about? It's about a psychotic killer who goes by the name of Jack Frost, and he vowed vengeance towards that one cop who arrested him. And when he was about ready to go to his death roll, a freak accident happened, and this experimental frost liquid spilled right in front of Jack, and it mixed his DNA, turning him into a snowman killer. And it was more corny than it was a horror movie. And it got so popular, they made a sequel, Jack Frost 2, where he chased the cop all the way to the Bahamas. Ugh. Unfreaking believable. And they were planning to make a third movie, but sadly the actor who played the cop passed away. So, no more Jack Frost. Thank God. Oh, this one's a good one. on the 5th. Coming on number 5 will be none other than Krampus. Yeah, I know. I reviewed this movie Christmas ago, but it bears repeat. And I put this one on number 5 because I have mixed feelings with this movie. It's based from a German folklore about a demon who is the polar opposite of Santa Claus. And of course, you probably know the story. There's one family who are more uptight and try to get into the spirit of Christmas, and another family who are gun-happy and pretty much act more like bullies. And that one boy who got so fed up on his relatives that he tore up the letter that he wrote for Santa and tossed it out the window. And now his family is on a prize for their life. So check out Krampus. And believe it or not, if it wasn't for this movie, I discovered there are tons and tons and tons of Krampus movies, and most of them are just typical slasher creature feature. But check out the original. This was the first. And speaking of Krampus, coming on number 4 will be none other than A Christmas Horror Movie. Now, unlike the Krampus movie, this one is an anthology. Tells 4 different stories. And turns out that the host was a radio DJ played by William Shatner himself. I decided to be the radio narrator on Christmas because that's what I do. Anyway, and the reason why I mentioned Krampus in this one, because in one of the stories, you start having a short story where Santa Claus, where he's in the North Pole, and he starts to discover that all of his elves are turning into zombies one by one, and it's a work of Krampus. And of course, you get a fight between Santa Claus and Krampus. And believe it or not, the actor who plays Santa Claus, he's a voice actor who played Beast on the X-Men animated series. So what's cool is that? I mean, how cool is that? Beast is Santa. And of course, the other stories, like there's an abandoned school, and the other one's about a black family who trying to be a happy family on Christmas, but there's something strange about their son, and so forth. And of course, on the Santa Claus story, there's a plot twist involved. So, my advice to you is check out this one. As for me, I ignore it. Now coming on number 3 is none other than Christmas Evil. Evil! This one was the first horror movie where you have somebody dressed up as Santa Claus doing all the killings. Before the one I'm going to mention in this list. I saw this movie in one of those horror collection. Since this movie is in the public domain, you can find it anywhere, and especially on YouTube. Christmas Evil, it's about a boy who got traumatized because he doesn't know that he sees Santa Claus kissing his mother's leg, and he doesn't even realize that's his dad. So he was traumatized. And as he grew up, he dressed up as Santa and started killing all the naughty people. Of course, he didn't kill a lot of people, he just killed some. And the ending left me puzzled. And even his own brother was trying to kill him. But speaking of Santa Claus killers, coming up at number 2 will be none other than Silent Night, Deadly Night. Oh, how do I begin with this one? A lot of people said it was the most controversial movie ever made because they say this movie is very traumatizing for the kids. And it's about this young boy he visits his grandfather on the nursing home, and his grandfather was being such a real jerk, telling him that he should behave, be a good boy, or Santa will come over and kill ya. And to put more salt in the wounds, there is a maniac who dressed up as Santa Claus who robbed a bank, but all of a sudden he's on the run, and he came across the boy's parents. He shot his father and took an advantage of his mom. So now the boy ended up an orphan, and a strict nun keeps beating on him and tries to help him face his fears over Santa Claus, but he still's not over it. You know, she should be more sympathetic. Until he grew up, he starts working in a toy store. He starts working on a toy store, and then they have him dressing up as Santa, and that's when he finally snapped and started killing people. And the movie got so popular, they made the infamous sequel, Silent Night, Deadly Night 2. If some of you don't remember it, how about this will jog your memory? Garbage Day! Yeah, that was in that movie. When the guy was picking up the garbage in the middle of the street, and he yelled out, Garbage Day, that was in Silent Night, Deadly Night 2. Turns out he was the brother of the first killer in the first movie, who also got traumatized. And then they made a third movie where the killer in the second movie now has this device on his head, and he's psychically communicating with some girl. And then they made a third movie where Ron Howard's brother starred into it, and it involves bugs. And then they made a third movie, and then they made a fourth movie with Mickey Rooney. Oh, fifth movie with Mickey Rooney as a toy maker, and now he has a son who is actually a living action figure. Can it get any worse? And also, years later, they made a so-called remake, which is just called Silent Night. It has a lot of reference from the original first movie, but all in all, it's not exactly a remake. It has a little nod to the original, but all in all, it's just a different movie. And I kind of like the mask on the beard. The mask he's wearing, it's one of those see-through masks. He just cuts out the mouth and just stick the beard on it. And of course, it got really ridiculous when that female cop, who turns out to be the hero in the movie, he's going one-on-one with her with a flamethrower. But before we get to number one, here are a couple of honorable mentions. And here are some honorable mentions. No! Nightmare Before Christmas is not a horror Christmas movie. There are some scary scenes in it, but all in all, it's a friendly Tim Burton Disney movie. It's not a horror movie at all. There, Jack. I made that clear. Happy?
Oh yes, I am so happy they made that clear. Because what bothers me is people kept thinking that my movie is a horror movie. But thanks to Multi-Voice Reviewer, he made it clear. Oh, and you should have seen his review Thanksgiving ago.
Yeah, I reviewed Nightmare Before Christmas Thanksgiving ago. So, you should check it out. Anyway, back to the honorable mention, shall we? Coming all the way from Japan, Horror Theater 3, Present. This one is a Japanese movie where it involves a killer Santa Claus here who keeps killing all the Japanese teenagers. Don't know why, but it's based from a manga. So, it's a manga horror story about a Santa Claus killing people. I don't know why Japan decided to make something like this, but honestly, one thing I gotta say about Japan is, the heck's the matter with you? And The Elf. Not to be confused with Will Ferrell movie, but this one is about a madman who pretty much kidnapped children and enchanted their souls into these little China doll elves, and now they're coming to life and start killing people. I don't know about you, but you should give this elf a chance. A watch. But that's my opinion. Anyway, back to number 3. Number 1. The number 1 horror Christmas movie that I hate so much is none other than Black Christmas. This here was the very, 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 very first Christmas horror movie ever made. And I do have to admit, if they didn't make this movie, they didn't make Halloween. But I still hate the movie nonetheless. This movie peed me off. And what's it about? It's about a psychotic killer who escaped from the insane asylum during Christmas. And then he finds a sorority house and he starts hiding in their attic. And also there's a reference to an urban legend. Like the cops telling the girl, "You better get out this house. The calls are coming from inside the house." And the only thing I gotta say is pretty creepy is when they show the killer's eye in the movie. That I gotta say is creepy. But don't get me started with the remake, Black Xmas. I hated that remake. I hate it so much. It's a lot worse than the original movie. Oh, I need to calm down. Anyway, there you go. These are the top 12 Christmas horror movies I hate. But I know some of you... Oh, and a little known fact. Did you know that the creator of Black Christmas also made this, A Christmas Story? And I already did the review of A Christmas Story a couple of Christmas ago. So, he makes a Christmas horror movie and then makes a Christmas comedy. What are the odds? Well, that's it for the day, folks. That there are my top 12 Christmas horror movies I hate. And I know some of you are thinking why I didn't mention the Gremlins. Well, I love the Gremlins. I never thought of it as a Christmas horror movie. I think of it as a horror comedy. And I love horror comedy better than just plain horror. Well, Merry Christmas, and I hope that some of you enjoy your holiday, and see you soon. Gizmo caca. Like and subscribe. Bye-bye.